Right, we're live. Right, hey everyone. I'm hanging out with Kevin Logan to talk about the inevitable apocalypse Trump is going to bring down upon us. What do you reckon, Kev?
I don't know about an apocalypse, but just already, fuck Trump, man. Jesus Christ. I'm just
So,
fuck Trump.
okay, let's talk about like the biggest thing about Trump that you personally have a problem with. Like, what is it that is specific?
It's what's the biggest problem I have with him? That is interesting. Probably his utter lack of interest in the democratic process. That's what's most worrying, I would suggest.
Okay, look, how has he been? How has he interfered with the democratic process?
Well, I wasn't even suggesting just this interference with, although I can get onto that as well with his collusion with Russia. It seems, as it's come out today. Not a surprise to me or to most people, but I meant more his disregard for it, his absolute contempt for it. Frankly, his having wanted to refuse to accept the result until he won. That was amazing. The fact that actually wasn't really reported on because it was on the eve of the election, so the whole story was the election. But one of his last speeches, he said that having gone through this whole long process, if he didn't win, then it would all have been worth nothing. As if the democratic process itself, taking part in that, having gotten to the stage of being a presidential candidate, meant nothing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think that's a bit of an uncharitable reading of what he said there, don't you think?
No, I really think it gives you a good insight into the man's mindset, that it's only ever about him. He's the demagogue. He's the carnival barker. That's all he is.
Yeah, but I think you're misreading it, man. I think what he's saying is the amount of work and effort and the fact that the people involved generally consider this to be some kind of like movement in the same way that Bernie Sanders and his supporters considered a movement. You know, I can see Bernie saying, well, it'll all have been for nothing if we don't win because we've got really important issues that we think have to be, you know.
Well, no, that's I think paid to that argument would be the fact that Bernie Sanders set aside his own ego to support Hillary Clinton, who he clearly doesn't massively like or agree with, because it was for the greater good.
Selling out was a more appropriate way of describing what Bernie Sanders did.
Why? He said at the very start of that process that even if he didn't win, he would support the eventual Democratic nominee. Something which Trump, again, refused to do on the Republican side, including, of course, threatening to run as a third-party candidate. Again, showing that he didn't give two fucks. When it looked like he was going to lose after Iowa, he didn't give two fucks about the democratic process, even within the Republican Party, let alone America.
I think we need to clarify a few things here, right? There's nothing wrong with Trump running as an independent.
No, that's fine, but if you're going to do so only on the basis that, oh, the Republicans decided they didn't want me, again, you basically said, well, I don't care what the Republicans have said. And again, with America, I don't care what if America decides X, Y, and Z.
It's not like an insult to the democratic process. That's the democratic process working as intended. The Republican Party is a big platform, and they've got their own internal processes to select the candidate who is, well, presumably most right for the Republican Party. And if Trump didn't win that nomination, then, I mean, he would have to accept that. You would assume. And there's nothing wrong with him running as an independent after losing that.
I think, to clarify, there's nothing illegal about him doing that. But I think on a moral level, I think there is. If you're going to run as an independent, you need to do so from the beginning. You can't enter a process and then say, oh, fuck it, I've decided other than the voters, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. If you want to run as an independent, you need to do so from the beginning.
No, I disagree. I don't see any problem with that at all. I don't think.
And also, I think a point worth making. And people throw all your accusations of saltiness at me for all you fucking want. But considering the only reason that Trump was even still in the race, really, on any level, was because the FBI stepped in, and the fact that he lost the popular vote, but won the Electoral College vote, it seems that he was right about the system being rigged, but he was wrong about who it was rigged in favour of.
To be fair, that's not being rigged, though, is it? That's just the American system as it's meant to function.
No, look, I'm not suggesting that it's an illegitimate victory in that sense at all. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone. I'm just saying, for all of the fucking babyish whining from him all the way through this process about how the system was rigged against him.
Yeah.
Actually, the system was set up and he's favoured from it enormously, even though he's tweeted in the past about how the Electoral College was a, quote, disaster for democracy. But it's only because of that he won.
He's a total hypocrite on this point. I've got no doubt, and I agree with you completely. One of the things I really disliked in the debates is when he started trying to play the victim. It's like, Trump, don't do that. Nobody likes playing the victim, and these people that we're opposing have played the victim professionally. So don't you start doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's even worse coming from Trump, though. I would suggest, on the basis that he's a man that's been handed fucking everything in life. He's getting the best that the system could possibly give any human being, and then he stands up there and says the system's rigged against me. Are you fucking joking? You were given a small loan of $1 million in 1972. You
all right. Hang on. Before we start getting into the depth of it, then, what was the first point that you said? How he didn't respect the democratic process? Because I don't agree with your second one, man. I don't see how him running as an independent at all would make him in any way disrespectful of the democratic process, and I don't really see that what he's done wrong. What was your first point again? Sorry.
The first one. Oh yeah, no, you said about subverting the process. That wasn't actually the initial point I was making. But I think it's hard to refute the idea that him refusing to accept the result up until the point where he won.
You see, I think you might be painting that a little bit too simply, though, because I mean, he
was offered. Chris Wallace was basically begging him during the course of that second debate, basically giving him every opportunity to say, can you basically rule out a fucking coup d'etat, you prick? Just accept that you're going to accept the result of the election when it comes in. And he refused to, thrice.
Look, I don't believe that Trump was saying that if the election hadn't gone his way, he would conduct a coup d'etat.
No, but I'm saying that's the point of asking that question, is you're ruling that out. You're saying, I am a Democrat, a small d Democrat, by the way, not a
Okay.
You are a Democrat. You believe in the democratic process, and you are going to accept the will of the American people. And he refused to do so.
I agree that we should be respecting the democratic process.
Yes.
This is why I'm concerned that you're ignoring the fact that Hillary Clinton is the sort of person who doesn't respect the democratic process.
Go on.
And so Trump saying, will you just accept the election and concede if it's likely that Hillary has tampered with it in some way? And honestly, I would not rule that out at all. Then him saying, I'm not just going to concede on the face of it is perfect.
No, but that's not quite the point, because he's the first candidate, certainly in recorded history, since debates took place and all the rest of it, to refuse that.
Yeah, but
every other candidate has said that they would accept the result. They've not held out the hope. They've not held out the possibility on tenterhooks that they might refuse to accept the result. No one's ever done that before.
No, listen, right? Has there been a candidate as corrupt as Hillary Clinton running before?
I would point to Richard Nixon and say, yes, there fucking has. And he won.
He's worse than Nixon, man.
How?
Well, are we talking specifically the deletion of data or what?
Yeah, deletion of data, deletion of fucking emails.
Yeah.
Wow. That's hardly spying on political opponents. That's hardly wiretapping of political opponents.
What are you talking about? Look, Kev, you know that there was a conspiracy in the DNC in Hillary's favor, right?
Yeah.
Right, and so do we now want to talk about which candidate is respecting democracy?
Well, do you know that was actually done by Hillary Clinton?
Well, she was the beneficiary, Kev.
She was the beneficiary of it, yes. Yeah.
I mean,
it was clear that the DNC from the very start didn't want Bernie Sanders to win. So I would suggest that it wasn't Hillary Clinton automatically going out and doing X, Y, and Z. And, by the way, she still won that fucking election. She got more votes than Bernie Sanders.
The people within the DNC party who were part of... And Kev, we have the emails of them literally trying to rig it against Bernie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's disgusting.
Yeah,
I don't think you can pin that on Hillary Clinton. I really don't.
Anti-democratic candidate.
Well, to be fair, right, she has accepted defeat. Donald Trump, we don't know if he would have done, because he still, up until the very day itself, didn't say whether he would have accepted defeat.
The question was, is there going to be some evidence of the election being rigged because she's already rigged one election in this election cycle. So,
well, okay, you want evidence of an election being rigged. I would suggest you look at the Russian diplomat that today came out and said that there was contact between the fucking Kremlin and the Trump campaign, and it just so happened that a week before the election, an election that he was 10 to 12 points behind in the polls. Now, the polls were wrong, but 10 to 12 points, not wrong, okay?
I'm
should have won on that basis. And he was dragged back into it by collusion between himself and the fucking Kremlin and WikiLeaks and the fucking FBI, who we know had prior conversations with leading Republicans as well. There was a fucking conspiracy to release that information and to fucking drag Trump back into this race.
In a second, Kev.
Political by the FBI.
Point though, I want us to come to a conclusion on that we can then carry on with and accept that this is objective reality. You know, this is the point. Hillary was the one who was deliberately subverting the democratic process. Trump was just saying, I'm going to stay as an independent.
No, Trump was saying, I'm not going to accept, or I'm not necessarily going to accept the results.
Likely to subvert the democratic process, or at least there is a significant possibility of it. You're not just going to accept the results on the face of it until it's all confirmed that it was the integrity of the vote was confirmed. I mean,
but that's not the question that was being asked, and he knows that. It was made very clear to him that that was the case.
I wouldn't have just, I would never have gone, well, yeah, I mean, if Hillary wins, I'll just accept it because Hillary's such an honest broker that the election's guaranteed.
But it's not up to Hillary. Hillary isn't running the fucking election.
No,
there are independent monitors.
Not running the election.
There are independent monitors which fucking assure, well, not assure necessarily, but report on these things. And there was no fucking voter fraud, and he won. What a surprise. Is anyone going to accept now? And I think you've made similar statements in the past, that you were talking shit when you were talking about this election being rigged.
No, listen, I agree with you. He was wrong about the election being rigged. But you know that until after the election.
Yes.
Hillary, I think there is a significant possibility that something might have been tried.
Yeah, and I think he knows that on the basis that he was trying to do it.
I don't think he was trying to do it. I don't see how there's any evidence of Donald Trump trying to rig the election. But let's talk about the Russians. Let's talk about the connection with the Russians, because this has all come out, what, today?
Yes, the leading Russian diplomat has boasted about the contact between the Kremlin and Trump officials, yes.
Okay, so what was the contact between the Kremlin and Trump?
Well, we don't quite know yet, and I dare say we never will, because I dare say they didn't keep minutes of conversations. But I would be surprised if they weren't feeding them lines. I'd be very surprised.
Right, so they've fed lies to the Trump campaign. So I mean,
no, not lies, lines. I mean, look, they've got information.
Sorry, you are still quite quiet. I don't know whether anyone in the chat is noticing that. I can't raise the volume on my end anymore. But right, so do you take exception to Trump having any kind of conversations with the Kremlin?
No, I don't mind necessarily, and especially because regardless of who was standing, there would have been some contact with loads of different foreign governments. That's absolutely fine, because they have to prepare the way for international diplomacy and all the rest of it. That's fine. But considering the close ties that have existed previously between a number of his campaign staff and indeed Trump himself, who's praised Putin and Putin has praised Trump, I don't think they were ringing one another to talk about the latest episode of Game of fucking Thrones or something. I think we know precisely what was going on there.
Is it a problem if the Kremlin advises Trump?
Yes. Why? Considering they are a hostile foreign power, which are not a democracy, and Putin has been actively deleterious to Western interests.
How is it that Putin keeps winning elections in Russia?
Because he controls all of the media, near enough. He's killed opposition journalists. He has imprisoned Garry Kasparov, most famously, but of course many other political opponents, and has been known to rig certain parts of the election, including, of course, one region which had 130% turnout. Yeah.
Why is Chelsea Manning in prison?
I don't know. He's for revealing state secrets or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to defend that.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is they're not actually that different to us.
They're significantly different to us.
They're not that different to us, and
no. If that was the case, why? Okay, right. Here's the difference. Here's the difference, right? Alexander Litvinenko was killed in London by the Russian state for being an opponent.
Yeah.
Fox News has been a strong opponent of Barack Obama
Mhm.
ever since he stepped foot in the White House. How many Fox employees have been killed by Barack Obama?
I don't know how many.
0.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's one fucking major difference.
The
You can be a
regime
dissenting voice.
in
You can be a
prison.
dissenting voice in the West. You cannot be a dissenting voice in Russia. It's not allowed.
I appreciate that Russia is worse than we are. I'm not suggesting for a second that the Russian state isn't far more authoritarian than the American one, but
Yeah.
they're on the same scale. They do the same things, just to a different extent. So,
Well, they don't do the same things necessarily at all.
a lot of dirt on us as well. And
No, they've got dirt on us, and I'm not defending the American state. I think the American state is basically a neo-imperialist fucking state anyway. But my point is, there are very, very significant differences, which mean that they are a fucking dictatorship, and I say we, Britain and America are different countries, but you know what I mean, the West in general is not a dictatorship.
I know what I mean.
Russia has been actively hostile to all of its neighbours. America, as far as I'm aware, has not gone in and fucking annexed Cancun.
It's annexed plenty of places, though. They just didn't happen to be next to it.
Where is it annexed?
Well, Hawaii, Guam, Puerto Rico. You've obviously the current protectorate of Japan. Then you've got the Middle East and the various invasions there. I mean, it's not like let's not get into a fucking thing because it's just a big thing, right? But what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing like inherently wrong with talking to Russia. You characterize them as a hostile foreign power. They're actually not. We're not at war with them. You know, there's no reason for us
We're not at war with them in name.
Yeah, but there's
to pretend that we're not in the midst of a second Cold War is to deny the obvious reality of foreign affairs.
I mean, you know, Trump is the person saying let's talk to Russia, and the Russians are like, yeah, I'd love to talk to Trump, and everyone seems to be acting like that's a problem.
It's a problem when you're going to be going into the White House and you're going to be incredibly friendly to someone who has shown no interest in diplomacy. Let's get that straight. There's a difference between talking to someone who is prepared to talk and being a lapdog for a fucking hostile foreign dictator.
Okay, let's stop there for a second because the Kremlin is interested in diplomacy, and it's actually remarkably good at it with Putin at the helm. I mean, there's a reason that we didn't go into Syria in 2013. That's because John Kerry can't keep his fucking mouth shut.
Right.
Okay? He's an idiot, and the Kremlin got him on that. And so,
yeah, but perhaps it would have been better had we actually gone and done that.
No,
as much as I don't like the idea of us having done that, I can't say that I can't say that the consequences of our inaction in the Middle East have been positive. Our vacillation on the Syrian issue has led to the deaths of fucking millions and an immigration influx into Europe, which I don't think anyone's massively happy of.
Yeah, I don't agree. I think it'll just get worse. I think it'll just get worse. I mean,
It will get worse. But I'm saying, had we gone in then, had we not fucking essentially, like you say, if John Kerry had kept his fucking mouth shut and Russia hadn't been able to play us like a fiddle, maybe the situation wouldn't be anywhere near as bad as it is now.
I think it'd be worse. I think it. I mean,
well, we can't say. I mean, it's hypothetical. I'm just suggesting that the situation we currently find ourselves in is just, I mean, unimaginably disgraceful.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at precedent. I mean, Putin is good at diplomacy. He's interested in diplomacy. Trump wants to initiate some sort of diplomatic relationship with him. I think that's a really positive thing.
Okay, but considering that you're not, I don't think you're going in on an equal playing field because, for a start off, Trump has already essentially fluffed him. He's essentially given him a fucking handy J, okay? Before he's even fucking got there. That's not diplomacy, that's sycophancy. And secondly, Donald Trump is, as I think we can all fucking see, one of the most easily drawn into hubristic mistakes politicians. He's a politician now, he's going to be president for fuck's sake, that we've ever seen, and has absolutely no experience in international diplomacy. And he's going up against a guy who has played the West brilliantly for the past decade or more. He has taken on the likes of Tony Blair, David Cameron, Barack Obama, John Kerry, experienced politicians who know what they're doing, and they have had a fucking hell of a time dealing with him. Trump's going in there, and it's going to be like Mike Tyson against a fucking toddler.
Yeah, but no, maybe that's the problem. I mean, maybe the problem is that Putin is better at politics than these people, but maybe Trump will be better at doing deals than Putin.
Like I say, given the fact that he can be baited into angry 3 a.m. exchanges on Twitter, suggests to me that he doesn't necessarily have frankly, the fucking mental wherewithal to hold it with the likes of me or you, let alone fucking Putin.
Do you really think that, like, the campaign trail is the best place to really judge small things like that? I mean, people
you get a good idea of the kind of person you're dealing with. Yes, I think.
Yeah,
I think that moments of weakness tell you a lot more about a person than moments of strength.
Yeah,
and Trump's moments of weakness have been so pathetic, so utterly fucking spineless at times.
Yeah, okay, maybe. But that doesn't mean that he can't negotiate a good deal with Putin. And that doesn't mean, I mean, if it was Hillary, we wouldn't be having any negotiations with Putin at all. So, I mean,
possibly so. But actually, the one thing I will give Barack Obama is I think what has kept Russia in check to a certain extent is the fact that their economy has been crippled by Western sanctions. Yeah. I think that has been actually quite a successful trick. Mm-hmm. I prefer to talk to them, but like I say, you're going into that assuming that they even want to talk, which I don't think they do. I think they've shown that they prefer to do their diplomacy via guns and bombs. And I'm not saying the West doesn't do that as well. I'm just saying you can't talk to a foreign hostile power that if they don't get what they want, they'll just invade a place.
The thing is, I don't think this is a fair characterization entirely, because I think that. Honestly, I think Putin is a lot more intelligent than people give him credit for, I guess. Because, yeah, I mean, he uses guns and bombs when he needs to use guns and bombs. But guns and bombs cost money. I mean, they cost a lot of money. He knows that it would be far better to achieve Russia's strategic aims through diplomacy, and Trump could help him do that. But in the process...
Yes and no. The one thing you're not factoring in there is that Putin especially is trying to whip up nationalist fervor in Russia, and part of that is by imposing military strength around the world.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no way in which he would ever just settle for 100% diplomacy all the time. It's just never going to happen.
That's an unrealistic standard that we wouldn't hold ourselves to. So
no, absolutely. But my point is, when someone's dead set on having to go to war every now and then, in order to sustain their own power like that, I don't know that you can necessarily do deals with them. It doesn't seem like they're a stable, rational enough political elite in Russia for that.
Yeah, I mean, Putin has been in power for quite some time now, elections, incidentally, but I don't know how legitimate these elections are.
Basically entirely And, by the way, he had to fucking change the Russian constitution to regain the presidency from Medvedev. Again, another entirely fucking illegitimate move on his part.
And yet he's still wildly popular. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, but like I say, anyone would be popular if you control the media.
I don't think so. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton.
She didn't control them.
Yeah, she fucking did.
No, there's a difference between collusion with friendly journalists and literally having state-dominated control of all of the media.
It doesn't matter who's dominating it, as long as it's all being dominated.
Well, it isn't all being dominated. The largest single fucking cable news broadcaster, Fox News, despised Hillary Clinton. They weren't massive fans of Donald Trump, that's true, but they despised Hillary Clinton, and they were pumping out vile shit against her all the fucking time. So don't say that somehow this is a controlled media, because that's a load of shit.
Who watches Fox? No, seriously. Honestly, Clinton...
Who watches Fox? They're the fucking highest rated cable news network in America. That's who. Americans watch it.
One of many. There are so many more. And, oh my God. No, man, look. Do you not find it worrying that WikiLeaks releases all this stuff and the media is silent? They don't want to talk about it. I mean, isn't that weird? Isn't any journalist worth their salt going to be adversarial to Clinton rather than bolstering her campaign at every turn? I mean, man, the Huffington Post, at the end of each article, they had a little disclaimer saying, Donald Trump is a racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic git. And, I mean, literally at the bottom of every...
By the way, interesting, I don't know if you noticed, they've now removed that.
Yes, I do notice they've now removed it. It's interesting because I would say, Huffington Post, stand by what you say. I think
people in the American media are genuinely scared.
I'm sure they are. But my point is,
Well, hang on. Well, you'd laugh at that as if that's a good thing. Why is that a good thing? To be scared of it? I mean, I'd prefer them to be neutral towards politicians rather than liking them or hating them. But if you're scared of a political leader that has the Senate and the fucking Congress as well, by the way, so can probably push through some pretty dictatorial powers, I don't think that's a healthy situation to be in.
Well, okay, for a start, every other president, well, since Bush, in fact, has pushed through dictatorial powers. And you know, in the case of Obama, I don't really blame him, to be honest, using constant executive orders and whatnot, because you know I know he's been roadblocked at every turn, so I don't really blame him. And I was looking through his executive orders, and they're not that bad. Trump's going to purge the media or something?
No, it's not a matter of purging the media, and I think this is one of the nasty little straw men that started to pop up. Like, for instance, again, the reason we're doing this one, as we did with the previous one, was because I lightly baited you on Twitter.
I love it, man.
Yeah, and but by the way, Twitter, stop shadow banning people, because I told Fiffin to go fuck himself or herself. I don't know if it's a man or a woman, because they responded to you, and I thought they were responding to me, but I couldn't see your tweet because you're shadow banned. So it makes conversation impossible. Twitter, stop being pricks. Anyway, that's a small rant aside. Yeah, and one of the things that kept coming back was, oh, Trump. Oh, Trump's literally like Hitler. He's going to do what Hitler. No, I know. I don't. I'm not saying that. Some people might be saying that, and they're idiots. I don't think he's Hitler. I don't think he wants to kill black people or gay people or whatever. It's the damaging infringements upon the rights of those people that's the problem. He's already said during the course of the campaign that he wishes to make.
Sorry, I'll be back in a second. My kid's waking up again. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'll rant in your absence. Yeah, he's already said during the course of the campaign that he wishes to make libel laws much easier for him to sue journalists that say nasty things about him. Now, that's one thing when you're a private citizen doing that. When you're the president doing that, that's really scary. The idea that the president can just decide on a whim that he wants to sue X, Y, and Z media outlets, because you're the fucking president. Of course they're going to have a go at you. That's sort of their job. That's sort of what they're there to do. Yeah, and like I say, again, I'm not saying he wants to kill gay people, but his vice president believes that electrocuting them will turn them straight. He also believes, by the way, again, for the skeptics out there, you should be really scared of Trump dying in the next 4 years. As bad as I despise Trump, but if he dies, we get Mike Pence as fucking president. And that guy believes that evolution is, quote, just a theory. That's why it was so, for me anyway, so terrible to see the quote unquote skeptic community endorse this pair of fucking pricks, because he's everything we should despise and more. But anyway, see what's going on in the chat. What are people saying in the chat? Show us your ass, Kev. Which one?
Sorry about that, man. I'm really sorry.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a straw man as it is a misconception.
Oh, okay.
I don't think people really know what people think is going to happen, and so they're assuming that you're assuming the worst. Well, not you, but you know, people on Twitter are assuming the worst. So, I mean, like, what is it you think is going to happen to these journalists? Why are these journalists afraid? What are they afraid of?
Well, look, as I was saying that, you probably didn't hear because you were dealing with your crying baby.
Yes.
Real life getting in the way again. For fuck's sake. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I was saying that during the course of the campaign, he said he wants to liberalise libel laws, so that basically he can sue whoever he fucking wants in the media who disagrees with him, which is scary enough if it's a private citizen doing it, but when it's a fucking president doing it, that's genuinely worrying.
Well, I mean, he does have the right to sue people, but I don't agree with him. I mean, I don't actually know what the libel laws are, but I can't imagine it's a good thing. So I'd definitely be with you on.
Well, that was his stated policy from the very beginning. Now, as we've seen, some of his stated policies are beginning to be withdrawn. He's suddenly, all of a sudden, I mean, the comparison to Brexit is actually really good. I think is a really straightforward analogy for the way in which this is happening there. Trump didn't expect to win, I don't think. And I don't think the Brexit people expected to win. And now, all of a sudden, they've, in the same way that the Brexit people, initially, straight away afterwards, the promises they'd made, they're going, oh, fuck, we're going to have to actually do this now. And so all of a sudden, the promises that were made had to be withdrawn because they're not workable.
Well, with the Brexit thing, I'm actually quite annoyed about people taking what Boris Johnson said as any kind of statement of anything, or Nigel Farage. I mean, Nigel Farage isn't even Conservative, so no matter what he said should happen, he hasn't. There is no way he can do it because he's not part of the ruling party. Boris Johnson isn't in the. Is he in the cabinet? He's the foreign minister, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, but he's not the prime minister. And
no, although to be fair, he was expected to run and probably would have won that election.
But he didn't run, and Theresa, and she's not the one making those promises. So I appreciate that they were silly promises, and that, you know, any promises like 350 million to the NHS. Yeah, shut up, you idiots. Yeah, obviously that's fucking idiotic. But I don't think that Theresa May, for example, should be held to that. She didn't make those promises.
No, that's absolutely, yeah. I don't think she should be. But like I say, I think the analogy works because neither of those sides expected to win, and now that they've had to go, ooh, actually, you know, we promised that thing about the whole banning Muslims coming in. That's unconstitutional. Let's just drop that as if that never happened. I never said that, honest.
Well, no, A, it had been done before, man. But B, he had dropped it way before he'd won. So
no, but he was still on his website. The full moratorium on Muslim immigration was still on his website up until last night, and then it disappeared. I didn't know that. He's planned to withdraw America from the Paris climate change treaty. Again, was on his website until last night, disappeared. Quite Orwellian, that, isn't it?
Well, possibly, yeah. But I mean, it's not a news outlet. It's a politician's official platform. So,
yeah, exactly. It's not a news outlet. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth, and the horse is talking shit.
Well, yeah, but
yeah. But you back the man who is as big a liar politician as any other. He's shown himself already. Imagine this. He's going to shake up Washington, right? His first fucking act as the president-elect was to leak information or to brief the press that he wanted to appoint as his Treasury Secretary a guy called Steve Mnuchin. Almost certainly mispronouncing his name, but it's spelled like a fake Scrabble word, so you can't expect me to get it right. Steve Mnuchin, a 17-year former Goldman Sachs executive who is a close personal friend of the one-man Illuminati machine, to quote Black Pigeon Speaks, George Soros.
Really? I didn't know that. I heard that he was...
So he's anti-establishment and anti-globalization, is he?
Yeah, man. I tell you, I think that a lot of people are going to be pissed at that.
I've yet to hear anyone complain about that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's about as anti-establishment as Hillary Clinton was.
Yeah, that's interesting.
He's going to start a revolution with Goldman Sachs fucking executives, is he?
Sorry, say again?
I said, is he going to start his fucking Washington revolution with Goldman Sachs executives around him?
That's a very fucking good question. And I'm surprised that the alt-right aren't making more of a big deal out of it.
Well, they fucking should, but they've nailed their colours to the mast, and I dare say they're going to go down with the ship.
They might. It's entirely possible that they will.
And it's a shame because... And again, the analogy to Brexit is absolutely spot on in this regard. The left, and I don't want to attack the left because the left are hurting right now. I know that. I'm a part of it. I'm fucking hurting. But we need to re-engage with working class people because the thing is, you can't just sell poor people who have nothing the idea that this person is potentially dangerous and is going to change things for the worse. Because if you've got nothing, why would you vote for things to stay the same?
Who recently made that point? I heard that today, in fact. It was Russell Brand, wasn't it?
Oh, God, I'm not sounding like that cunt, am I? Fucking hell.
He said exactly the same thing.
Ugh. Well, yeah. I mean, on this occasion, I'm going to have to agree with them. I don't like the
thing is, you know that the left can never go back to being the party of the working class.
No, it can. There's no such thing as never in politics. Anything can change. It used to be that the Republicans were anti-slavery and that the Democrats were pro-slavery, and that has completely flipped. The left and right can change. They absolutely can. It's actually closer to home. The Labour Party used to be deeply anti-Europe, and the Conservatives wanted to bring us into the EEC, as it was then, the EU. And now that's completely flipped. the left and right can change.
Generational changes. I mean within like the next generation or so. These are long-term changes that you're talking about. They take a long time.
Well, the generation. I don't even know that it's generational. I think you can change things around like that in, I think, probably 10 to 15 years with a concerted effort.
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? 10 to 15 years for the party to somehow pull their heads out of their asses and remember that they're the Workers' Party. I mean, come on, man. How has it got like that?
I don't know. There's a lot of soul searching needed on the left, unfortunately,
You
because
exactly why.
There's no way of avoiding it. In the last 18 months, we've seen a deeply unpopular Tory party get a majority. We've seen Brexit win, and we've seen Donald Trump win.
Yeah.
The left is reeling.
A few things.
Eh?
That should be telling the left a few things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whatever it is about what we're doing, it isn't working.
Yeah. And you know that thing, you know what that thing is, don't you?
No, go on.
It's calling people racists.
I don't think that helps, but I don't think that's entirely it either. I think part of the problem is what used to be a USP for the left was the idea that we were against, well, not even necessarily against, but we weren't going to be in the pockets of big business. And I don't see a left-wing leader out there who has a chance of getting elected that isn't. Yeah. And I don't think that helps either. So basically, you're sort of getting the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
And I think actually, a thing we discussed previously.
But the thing is, hang on, being in the pockets of business doesn't make you unelectable. It's just not a very favourable thing to have on your name.
No. Actually, it used to be that's what did make you electable.
Absolutely.
Thatcher, Major, Blair, Brown, they were all in the pockets of big business, and that got you elected because you were seen as sort of economically
reliable.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But the world has sort of changed since then.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it may be that going forward that it anti-establishment politicians are a big deal. Maybe they do continue to be a big deal, but that's not the thing that people. Well, I mean, that is one of the things, but I really think the primary issue is the way that people have been treated by the left.
I think there's an element of that. Yeah, I think it was something that we discussed in the past in the hangout the other week.
Yeah.
The basket of deplorables comment. Now, there are undoubtedly a lot of people who supported Donald Trump who are deplorable. And if anyone wants to see examples of that, I've put a video up today of precisely that. But to label them as, or to label a huge section of them, half of them or all of them or whatever, as deplorable, that's never going to win anyone around. Insulting people isn't going, no one's going to go, oh, well, I'll vote for you now then. That's not how you win an argument. Refusing to take part in the argument means you lose the argument.
Yeah, and the main problem though is it's not Hillary Clinton that's been doing this. She said it once in a secret speech to Goldman Sachs or whoever she was speaking to, but on a daily basis, we get dozens and dozens of articles telling white people that they're evil. We get dozens saying that men are the problem. I mean, the BBC, I think it was today, they put out an article saying, "Can we live without men?" What kind of fucking question is that? Can you imagine them saying, "Can we live without women?" Can you imagine them saying, "You know what, Negroes are the problem"? This is what people are sick to the back teeth of, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, like I said, it's a point I've made previously. The left has not done, but it's not even that it's not done well in doing it. It hasn't even really tried to talk to the working class in a long time, and for the most part, neither is the right. But it means that if you're going to leave a vacuum there, it means populist right-wingers like UKIP or Trump will win that argument because, again, they're the only ones talking to them.
Yeah.
If you don't take part in the discussion, you can't win discussions aren't meant to be won. If you don't take part in the argument, you can't win the argument.
Yeah, but if you don't discuss the issues with anyone, then you can never persuade them around to your thoughts.
Yeah,
but I mean, you know that like the left has considered the working class the problem.
To a degree, yeah. And again, I can only really talk about it, I suppose, from a British point of view. The left, and by the left, the popular left, the Labour Party, has saw that it was doing well with the working class back in the 80s, but it couldn't attract middle class voters, and so it focused so much on getting those, especially sort of home counties middle class, white CV2 voters, or whatever they're called, the demographics thing, that they basically stopped talking to the working class, and that doesn't work. It's not even just that neither side is particularly representing the working class; it's that there's only one side even talking to them.
Yeah, but
and I say them, I'm part of them. I know exactly how that feels. I did a video about that called the being a white working class male.
Yeah, but
the political establishment doesn't give two fucks about it.
It wasn't just they stopped talking to them; it's they started demonizing them. I mean, the Conservatives have never tried talking to the working class, but they at least weren't demonizing them. You know, I mean, they
are to a degree. I think the strange
little boogeyman for the working class. Do you know what I hate more than anything is when someone who's working class, and I've got plenty of friends who are working class, and they complain about people on fucking benefits because they watch something called Benefit Street, which is a program on TV for people in America. It's just going around talking about benefit scroungers, right? But it's such a monolithically small issue. It could not be. It's just such. I mean, it's something like it's less than 1%. There was a study done. It was less than 1% of all the fucking benefits paid out are paid to fraudulent people. So it's just like, right, this is not a fucking issue, you know. And the Tories are, and I think a lot of it may well be deliberate planning to keep them occupied, so they're not thinking about the cronyism that's going on in government. But the problem, the left have driven the working class to the Tories by speaking down to them so much, by being so disdainful, by treating them as if they are the problem. They've driven them to the Tories. I mean, the Tories were at least not telling the working class they were evil.
Well, the Tories are to a degree, because that Benefit Street, the culture of wanting to look down upon those working class people has been.
They're not working.
I think partly by Cameron with his strivers and skivers narrative.
Yeah, but that
might have working class as well.
That's the thing. That's not a working class narrative.
No, it's a narrative about the working class by the upper class, yeah.
No, it's not. It's a narrative about the underclass. The benefit scroungers. These are the people who the working class tend to look down their noses at. And they honestly, I've got mates who rant about it on Facebook all the fucking time. And I have to hold my tongue, well, my fingers. But from just going, dude, you know they paid out $600 billion to the banks, and you're complaining about, I don't know, $3 million a year or something. I mean, God, it really it's just like so short-sighted. And this is...
We've got such a weird collection. No, sorry to interrupt you, but we've got such an amazing collection of people in the chat. We've got AIU, Jenny McDermott, that guy T. What the fuck? This is like the weirdest. It's like the weirdest three people go into a bar joke ever.
That is actually hilarious. Unstoppable. Jesus Christ. Hey Devon, do you want to come on the stream yet?
Oh, Devon. Apparently he masturbated to Hillary Clinton. That's interesting.
I imagine he did. I can believe it. But right, okay. So getting back to
sorry, yeah, go on.
Yeah, let's get back to Trump because this is called the Trumpocalypse. Right. So have you looked at his first 9? Was it 9 points? I think he had, or 5 points or something.
Oh, was that for the to get rid of corruption in Washington thing?
Yeah, because I mean, like, just to recap what we covered, actually, right? I don't find the argument that Trump is the anti-democratic candidate persuasive. I don't see that. I don't think that him talking to the Kremlin is the worst thing in the world. I don't think that's him being guilty of a conspiracy or something. I don't think either of those actors had the power to enact any kind of conspiracy. As far as I can tell, it must have just been advice. I don't think
he did literally ask the Russians to hack the emails of a private American citizen.
There's no proof of it. There's no proof that like the emails were hacked by Russia. There's no proof that WikiLeaks has any connection to Russia. So,
okay, if you wanna put on your blinkers, that's fine.
Well, yeah, but I'm just going by what we have evidence of. I mean, yeah, sure, there might be. I mean, I would believe that the Kremlin is trying to hack American servers. I'm sure the Americans are trying to hack Kremlin servers.
Yeah.
This is just what countries do to each other. So yeah, sure, it's entirely possible, but we do have like evidence for certain things, and they're really bad things, and so yeah, so I don't really accept that narrative, to be honest. Is what I'm saying. So let's go on to any other right. What these 9 points? I'm just going to get them off a second. I had them saved somewhere.
Is this the one that included was it for every one piece of law code they get rid of 2 or something?
Yeah, I think that's really silly and arbitrary.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. I mean, it's like a fucking Republican wet dream thing, a neocon wet dream thing, whatever. I don't know.
Okay, so Trump's first 100 days in action plan, right? So the first one is propose a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. What do you think?
As long as it's set relatively high, because I like the concept of there being continuity. So if you set the term limits at, say,
8 years?
5 or 6. 5 or 6 terms.
Oh, 5 or 6 terms? How long is each term?
4, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I see. That's practically a lifetime.
No, what, 5 times 4?
Well, yeah, 20 years. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but there have been people in there for 50 plus years. That's the problem. I think 20 years is fine. Like I say, it's continuity. It's getting to know the system. If you've only got 8 years in there, people by and large don't start getting bills passed until they've been in there 3 or 4 years, don't they? So you're not going to have anyone with any fucking legislative experience.
I didn't realise there were people in there who'd been there for 50 years.
Oh, God, yeah, there have been people there for decades and decades, mate. 20 years really isn't that long for a congressman or woman.
Maybe. It sounds like a long time to me, but maybe it's not. But yeah, I think that's a good idea as well. I think that's definitely...
Apologies if you can hear doors opening and closing. My cat's a prick.
Sorry, say again?
I said, sorry if you can hear doors opening and closing. My cat's a dickhead.
Right, okay. The second one is a hiring freeze on all federal employees to reduce the federal workforce through attrition, exempting the military, public safety, and public health. What do you reckon?
No, because I think the military is one of the biggest problems in terms of spending in America. So, I mean, I think there are problems. I think you could look to expand certain parts, and certainly in terms of infrastructure, I think that needs to be improved.
So, hang on, sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. You need I think you could do with a slight increase in the amount of people working on infrastructure repair, and you could afford to lose a lot of the military personnel. So I don't agree with the way in which that's done. I don't mind the idea of them trying to reduce net spending, but that's not the way to go, it seems to me.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not sure that I don't think the United States can really afford to reduce its military and refuse to go to war. I guess they're still going to have to present. They're still going to have to look good on paper.
But they already do. They spend way more than everyone else. They could afford to cut the military and still be the largest military in the world by a mile.
Yeah, by quite a margin, I imagine. I imagine that they've decided that he's put exempting the military for political purposes as well. Yeah. Because that's going to turn millions of people against him. So I can entirely see why he wouldn't do that. But so the hiring freeze on all federal employees to reduce the federal workforce through attrition is generally a good idea in your opinion?
No.
You don't think so?
No. I think that's silly, arbitrary, and potentially very dangerous. Like I say, I think the American infrastructure is crumbling. So the idea that you're going to have a hiring freeze at a time when bridges are collapsing seems to me a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah, but wouldn't that come under public safety?
Possibly. It depends what he means by public safety, isn't it?
Okay, but I'm sure collapsing bridges would come under public safety.
Possibly so, but during the campaign he didn't have a problem with them voting down Obama's public infrastructure spending bill.
Okay, but I don't know what the reasons for that were, and he's proposed not freezing public safety, and I'm pretty sure that making sure the bridges don't collapse would come under public safety. So, okay,
well, on that basis, then yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, yeah, I don't get me wrong. If I'm not correct in any of these assumptions, then I'm happy to revise what I've just said, obviously. But that seems pretty reasonable to me as well. Yeah, the third one is the requirement for every new federal regulation to existing regulations must be eliminated. Now, I don't know exactly how many regulations there are, and I don't know whether each one is necessary or not. What's your opinion?
That's the stupidest thing, and the problem is that goes to the heart of one of his problems, is that he doesn't understand how the system works. It's not even that the system is entirely corrupt; it's just he doesn't know how it works. You're going to get rid of 2 pieces of legislation for one you pass. Why? Does he know the entire American statute word for word in every case? No, it's nonsense.
If there are loads of regulations that need to be cut because they're pointless busybody work, then why not just target the regulations themselves?
Yeah.
Why not just make an argument saying, look, we've found 5,000 regulations that are just pointless. We can demonstrate how each one is just not necessary now. We want to cut them. I mean, who's going to be against that?
Yeah, that's fine, absolutely. Yeah. But the idea that you're going to be able to do that, and what, is he going to actually pass any legislation to stop Wall Street? Is that actually going to happen?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Again, if he puts in if he puts in Mnuchin as the Treasury Secretary, definitely not.
So the next one is interesting. The fourth one is a 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials becoming lobbyists after they leave government service.
I would extend that to 10 years, but yeah, I like that plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. The fifth one is a lifetime ban on White House officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. I'm surprised that isn't already in the law.
Yeah, me too. But no, yeah.
That seems like a perfectly natural safeguard against treason, basically.
Yeah. Sixth, a complete ban on foreign lobbyists raising money for American elections.
Considering the amount of Russian money he's received, that seems entirely hypocritical. But yeah, I got no problem with that on the face of it.
Right, okay. But I'm not aware of him taking Russian money.
Well, I would, if I were you, I would look into that, because he's certainly received quite a lot of Russian money. Yes.
Okay. Do you have like any links or anything, or what?
Oh well, yeah. I'll have to dig them out. They're in my millions.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, I've got millions of folders worth of links.
Yeah, I know that feel, man. Trust. So he says afterwards that on the same day, I'll be taking the following 7 actions to protect American workers. First, I will announce my intention to renegotiate NAFTA or withdraw from the deal under Article 2205. What do you think?
Yeah, I've got no problem with him renegotiating trade deals. That's fine, yeah.
Right, okay. The second one is announce his withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
I absolutely agree. I probably agree with it for a different reason than he does, but I agree with it, yeah.
But at least he's doing the right thing, in your opinion, right?
Yeah.
Third, I will direct my Secretary of Treasury to label China a currency manipulator.
Well, that is true, yeah, of course they are.
Fourth, I will direct the Secretary of Commerce and U.S. Trade Representative to identify all foreign trading abuses that unfairly impact American workers and direct them to use every tool under American and international law to end those abuses immediately.
Okay, but again, it's hypocritical given that he used Chinese steel and he's against Chinese dumping of steel. But yes, on the face of it, yes, that's fine.
Do you not think that's just the necessary consequence of him being a businessman? If something can be done cheaper...
Well, it plays to the heart of this nonsense that he's for the American workers. Well, what point in his life has he ever been for American workers?
Well,
why should we trust that now... Exactly, yeah, he's been elected now. Why he has no fucking interest in bothering?
Yeah, but he's doing it. I mean, this seems like good...
Well, no, he hasn't done anything yet. We can't say he's doing it. He hasn't done a damn thing yet.
He hasn't assumed the office yet. But
no,
I mean,
absolutely. But that's my point. You can't say he's doing it when he hasn't actually done anything.
But he's in the process of showing what he wants to do, and so this is something we can hold him to.
Well, I hope you do, and I will. Well, as I've said on my channel, I will spend the next 4 years holding people's feet to the fire. I know I'm a nobody, but all I can do is my best, and I will, because I think America been sold a lie and have bought it hook, line, and sinker, and I will be holding people.
There's every chance that that's going to be the case. Like I said, I'm not necessarily pro-Trump as I am anti-Hillary, but I don't think Trump's nearly as bad as the media narrative. I think it's just he's a buffoon, and I've always said it. So, but that doesn't mean he can't do a decent job. And I mean, I don't see any problem with this, and this seems to be him, at least, going down the path of helping the people.
Well, as we've just been through a few of them, on the surface of them, they seem like largely decent plans. And if the worst he does is buffoonery, that'll be okay. I'll take that.
Fucking result, won't it?
Absolutely.
The fifth one is, he says, I'll lift the restrictions on the production of $50 trillion worth of job-producing American energy reserves, including shale, oil, natural gas, and clean coal. What do you think?
Fucking disaster.
Yeah, why's that?
Just as the world is starting to get any kind of a grip on global warming, he's entirely trying to fucking reverse all of that.
Do you think building nuclear power plants instead?
They're actually much better for the environment. They're not great, but if we're going to use energy, we have to come up with better ways of doing it.
I said that actually. I think about it. I did sound sarcastic, but no, I think we should be building more nuclear power plants.
Oh right, sorry, yeah, no, that's what I thought you were being sarcastic. Yeah, no, I'm fine with building nuclear power stations.
Yeah, no, I am as well. Sorry, I don't even know why I said it in that tone of voice.
Although, note to Japan: don't do it next to fucking fault lines and shit like that. I mean,
obviously dummies.
You've got to build it slightly better than that, it would seem to me.
Yeah. But okay, so I agree with you on the. I'm sure this is going to have detrimental effects to the climate. But I mean, he is still trying to do something that is going to improve the economy and provide jobs for Americans.
True, but you can provide jobs for Americans in a number of different ways. It seems.
Yeah, you can.
If you're going to have renewable energy, or if you're going to have nuclear power, that's going to create jobs as well. It doesn't. Yeah. Doing this is ridiculous and fucked up, and we know from the shale gas, from the fracking, and all of that, that's fucking up water supplies.
Yeah,
so it's not even just that it's fucking up the environment. It's fucking up people's lives. People haven't got drinking water in first world nations because of shit like that.
I know, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Man, you've seen the videos where they set their tap water on fire, haven't you?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
It's coming out the tap, it's yellow.
Yeah. And they can set fire to it. Fuck it being yellow. Jesus.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
I will take non-flammable yellow water any day.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, but the thing is, right, I agree with you, it's a silly thing to, not necessarily silly, but I agree that there's probably a significant downside to this. But I mean, this is obviously done from a position of, well, this is going to produce money and jobs, and this is going to be him fulfilling his promises to produce money and jobs.
True, but again, it plays into this. Sorry, him being the he's gonna take down the economic system or whatever. This is him playing the same short-term economic gain over long-term health and ecology.
Yeah,
it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think it's like from a position of malice. I think it's from a position of ignorance.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
And I actually, he seems to have the will in the right place. This is what I mean. If you look at like everything that he's actually proposing, then I mean, whether it's necessarily a wise idea or not, at least he seems to be doing the right thing, as far as I can tell. The sixth one is lift the Obama-Clinton roadblocks and allow vital energy infrastructure projects like the Keystone Pipeline to move forward. The
Keystone Pipeline's a joke.
Right.
It always was a joke. The financial benefits to America are minimal. That's him playing into neoliberal economic hegemony.
Hegemony.
Whatever, you pedantic bastard. You know what I mean?
I do, but it's just like, Christ, you've listened to that from the Americans, haven't you?
Probably, yeah.
Right, okay, so I'm going to be honest. I don't know a huge amount about the Keystone Pipeline, other than it's going to be going through some native lands and they're protesting it.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, that's bad enough as it is, but it's the fact that environmentally it doesn't really work. It's not actually going to be of massive benefit to America, it seems.
Right. I assume that it's what is an oil pipeline just to transport oil across the country. Is that or what?
Yeah, from Canada down to what's it called? The Gulf of Mexico.
Are there major ecological issues with it, or?
Yeah, it's going through some protected wetlands and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Fair enough. I don't really know how I stand on that one, to be honest.
Well,
I don't.
I'm not an expert, but from what I do know, it seems like a tiny, some minimal benefits. And all it is basically you're going to create a few jobs in the short term to build it, and then after that, it's just going to be a blot on the landscape that doesn't actually produce any money for America. So.
I think it'll be buried under the landscape, mate.
Oh well, okay, yeah, but it's going to damage the actual ecology of the land it goes through.
Right. Okay. Maybe I don't know enough about it, but they normally put these things underground. Right, and the seventh one is cancel billions in payments to the UN climate change programs and use money to fix America's water and environmental infrastructure.
I don't see how those two things are connected. To be honest, that seems like an unnecessary connection to make. I don't see this. If you're going to save that money and spend it there, but I don't see how those two things, why they're in the same point, seems unnecessary, fallacious.
Interesting. I don't know enough about this subject, so I can't give an opinion on it. And he says, additionally, on the first day, I will take the following five actions to restore security and constitutional rule of law. First, cancel every unconstitutional executive action, memorandum, and order issued by President Obama. What do you think?
Well, if they're unconstitutional, fine, but that's not really for him to decide that it's unconstitutional, is it? That would be for the Supreme Court to decide.
Deciding it. I mean, surely he'd have some constitutional scholars or judges or something.
Well, but to be fair, Barack Obama's a constitutional lawyer. So, I mean, if you're going to say, it depends who you ask as to how they interpret what the Constitution says. That's why there are 9 constitutional. Nine on the Supreme Court?
Anything, though, isn't it? You know, a lot of things that can be anything complicated like that can be depends who you ask. But in principle, that's an acceptable thing to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, any president has the right to remove any executive order, doesn't it? Yeah.
Okay. So second,
but without him actually listing what he would remove, just saying I'll remove some. Yeah. You know, that it's difficult to really judge.
Well,
the merits of what he's doing there, but
I suppose everything that can be considered unconstitutional, but I don't know what that is. So, yeah, right. So, second, begin the process of selecting a replacement for Justice Scalia from one of the 20 judges on his list who will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now, before we get into this, I was watching. What was I watching earlier? I can't remember what I was watching earlier, but apparently Trump's more likely to fill the court with moderates.
I don't think he's as right wing as he's had to play it, but I still don't think that he's going to choose actual moderates. I think he will choose conservative. But the problem I have with the replacement of Scalia is that should have been Barack Obama's decision to make. I don't know, that's not Trump's fault. That's the Congress's fault. But even so, that shouldn't have been his pick. That should have been Obama's.
Wow. But yeah, like you say, that's the Congress. Yeah. So right. Third, cancel all federal funding to sanctuary cities. And there's a note underneath just to explain because I'm not aware really of what this is.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that phrase.
Are American cities that have policies protecting immigrants in the county illegally from federal immigration law, such as restricting police from turning them over to federal agents. Trump has not said which federal funds will be withheld from sanctuary cities. A few of these cities are Seattle, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, Austin, Texas.
Wow, those are some pretty big fucking places, man.
I can't imagine.
Without knowing more about it, I can't really say, but it seems that you're picking a rather large fight there with some big places.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's going to piss off a lot of people.
Yeah.
And not because they're illegal immigrants either, but because they're, well, you know, like Bernie Sanders supporters who think that anything against illegal immigrants, you know, they'll be like, you can't call people illegal and all this sort of stuff. You know, these people are going to be out in droves.
Well, that's the one saving grace I will say to all my friends on the left is that all of this stuff we've been talking about deporting X, Y, and Z, that isn't it. The worst fears of people of like concentration camps and all this sort of stuff, that won't happen, because I don't think even those that voted for Trump, I don't think would accept that happening.
Yeah, no, I really don't think you're looking at concentration camps.
No, but I know some people have that fear, and that's the worst case scenario, but I don't think it's a realistic scenario.
No, I don't.
And ultimately, the way that people in America can stop that from happening, if you're scared of that happening, is that if you see anything like that beginning to happen, you fight back against it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just since interesting you mentioned that, because I was listening to Sam Harris's podcast about this, and one of the things I noticed is that everything he was listing that was a problem with Trump were like issues that could be fought. You know, he was like, Trump's anti-science. He doesn't care about. He thinks vaccines cause autism. Well, okay, but that's a political issue that that will be roundly fought by almost everyone. You know, I mean, like the only.
Well, that's the thing. My point to people, I made a video called "The Fight Back Starts Here," and I meant that quite literally. Is that people are acting as if this is the end of democracy?
Yeah.
The vote, regardless of who'd won, it isn't the end of democracy, because democracy doesn't begin and end at the ballot.
Yeah.
Just because someone gets elected doesn't mean you just then. I mean, they get obviously to enact a number of things that they want to do, and they have a platform they want to fulfill and all the rest of it. But that's not the end of the situation. You can fucking fight back against it. You can campaign against it. You can try and persuade the electors of that person that these things are wrong, and by doing that, you can put pressure on them to not do it.
Yeah, agreed. So the fourth one is begin removing more than 2 million criminal illegal immigrants from the country and cancel visas to foreign countries that won't take them back.
I'm not sure about cancelling visas to countries because that could get complicated. And
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
entirely sure how that would work. But in terms of removing illegal people, and we've had that problem here in Britain, haven't we? With what was his name? Captain fucking Hook, Abu Hamza.
Yeah.
We had that problem here as well, removing a criminal from the country who isn't who's not a citizen of the country. I think, well, that just, again, on the face of it, you think, why isn't that in the law? How are we not able to just kick this fucker out? That doesn't make sense. And that's what's really annoying, is that it stirs up a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment that needn't be there, because you just have these fucking constant media piss fits all the time about getting rid of Abu Hamza. We've got to get rid of Abu Hamza, and it stirs up a lot of nonsense that needn't be there, because we should just be able to get rid of the fucker first time, so it's not a recurring story.
And not only that, like when people think Muslim, I mean, Abu Hamza is so just classically Muslim villain.
Yeah, he's literally got a fucking hook for a hand. It's like a Hollywood fucking cliche. It's ridiculous.
For anyone who doesn't know, he's missing an eye and he has a hook for a hand.
Yeah.
I'm not making
Did he blow it off but making fucking explosives as well?
You know that.
You just think, fucking hell. Look, it's like if someone wrote this in a film, you'd say, no, that's hammy. That's ridiculous. Get rid of that bit.
You'd be like, dude, tone it down. No one's going to believe this.
Exactly. This is Al Qaeda turned up to 12. Turn it down. Come on.
It's amazing. But yeah, and this really does like echo back to what Donald Trump was saying originally about Mexican illegal immigrants. I think he's been unfairly maligned on this, because like there was a documentary about, I can't remember where it was fucking from, but it was before Brexit I watched, and they were saying how criminal gangs use the fact that the borders are open to move from country to country, because the quality of the contact between different nations, investigative bureaus, is not as good as it could be, and therefore they can quite easily evade various methods of detection, and this just allows them to use the border as like a get out of jail free card a lot of the time. And I think Trump is right when he says that about a lot of illegal immigrants. I'm sure many of them are fleeing poverty and all this sort of thing, but there are definitely large numbers of criminals who do the same. And to be fair, I can't understand why you wouldn't enforce your own borders. I just can't understand that.
Yeah, although again, I think it's something we discussed in the past, but the wall isn't actually going to happen. Not completely anyway, because it's just unworkable. They've tried before. It's a nonsense. But even if you did build it, that's not actually going to stop anyone, really. I think it's like 85% of illegal crossings or illegal immigrants in America crossed legally initially. So they had proper travel permits to either fly in, which again the wars and stuff, or they go across on proper either travel or work visas via proper access, like on roads.
I don't really care about the wall. It's almost just a symbolic issue, isn't it? A symbolic gesture. You know, whether it's it's probably never going to come to fruition. It's probably too expensive and not effective and all this sort of stuff. But I don't see any reason why they can't deport people who are there illegally. I mean, for a start, you don't know who they are. They haven't been vetted. That's a genuine concern. So you might well have terrible people fleeing something in Mexico coming into your country. That's the last thing you want, Right, okay, this is an interesting one. Fifth, suspend immigration from terror-prone regions where vetting cannot safely occur. All vetting of people coming into our country will be considered extreme vetting. What do you think?
Well, I like the idea of extreme vetting. What the fuck is that? Is that vetting while going down a hill or something? That's ridiculous. What? How are you defining a terror-prone region?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's worded so vaguely because ultimately, depending on how you define terror, like you could say that. I mean, America under Obama has been drone striking fucking Pakistani fucking villages and shit. That's terrorism, isn't it? Like,
well,
how do you define what terrorism is?
Yeah, but I figured that it was just a way of him preventing Merkel from getting into the country.
Well, I mean, she's a terrifying creature. There's no doubt. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's for instance, the 7/7 bombers came from Britain, didn't they? So I mean, are we a terror nation? Like, what? How do you define it?
He means the Middle East.
Well, yeah, but well, in that case, then. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to have to say this, but that seems a little bit racist. If you're just going to, they're brown, so let's just ban them. Like, that's ridiculous. I've got no problem with strong vetting of people coming into your country. That's absolutely fine. I think that's a perfectly sensible approach to take. Yeah. But to say you're just going to stop it from one region of the world is ridiculous.
Yeah, okay, I can see a pragmatic argument for it. I'm not suggesting I'm actually in favor of that, though.
As with so much of Trump's platform, there are elements of it where you think, well, there might be a practical way you could do X, Y, and Z, but there's so much wrong with it as well. There's so much unbelievable nonsense that goes along with it that it just becomes a sort of bigoted clusterfuck a lot of the time.
Yeah, it sets the wrong tone, because this is one thing that I think a lot of people forget, is that as soon as you normalize something, then you've changed the position at which the extreme end is. And so if you normalize like something like like vetting everyone who comes in the Middle East, it will end up becoming vetting brown people.
Absolutely it will.
Yeah, and you don't want to allow that sort of creep. I mean, surely they've got fairly good passport tracking measures and all this sort of stuff these days. I mean, it's pretty high tech, isn't it?
I would fucking hope so. Yeah, I would hope so. And the point is, it's simply increasing. If it's just going to be Muslims coming to the country, that is unconstitutional, because you can't have the establishment of religion or whatever, the establishment clause. You can't have religiously discriminatory laws. If you're going to do it for Muslims, you have to do it for Christians, Jews, Buddhists, whatever.
Right. Well, it has actually happened, hasn't it?
What has?
The Muslims being banned from the United States.
That's what we're about.
He
isn't even in power yet. How could that have happened?
It's
Andy, just like I say, he just dropped it from his fucking website as well. So I mean, I imagine he's not going to even try it, let alone actually pass it.
Hang on a sec. Right. Apparently not. Actually, I'm checking Snopes, so you can believe Snopes as and when you wish. But for the sake of argument, I'll suggest no. However, I did find an article on Vox from yesterday that is titled "Donald Trump Can Absolutely Ban Muslims from entering the US Without Congress." So
I'd be very surprised, because that would be challenged under the Constitution.
well,
I can't imagine you could have religiously discriminatory law.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out so people can see it. Hang on.
But anyway, yeah. Also, it's Vox, so I mean, you've got to take things with a pinch of salt.
You do, but they're normally, well, I mean, they're anti-Trump, so they're hardly going to be promoting his agenda. So if it can happen, it's obviously something that they need to warn against. You know.
Well, I've no doubt that he could pass some sort of executive order. That's not the point. It's whether that would stand up in a court.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, who knows? I would need someone who knew about that to let me know. But yeah, so I mean, in principle, I'm not necessarily against extreme vetting, but and I really can see the pragmatic argument, because I mean, if you look at the amount of terror that goes on in the world, huge amounts of it is Islamic. I mean, there's no debating that, right?
Right.
And so I can see the pragmatic argument for saying that it makes sense if we extreme vetting of people from Muslim countries. I mean, that's
well, you're gonna have to call it something else, because I don't know that it's going to necessarily be that palatable to literally call it extreme vetting. You're gonna have to give it like an Orwellian name, like I don't know, peace vetting.
I can't advocate for Orwellian names.
No, I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying you're probably going to have to get it passed or whatever. You know?
Oh, maybe, yeah, but yeah, maybe that would be a necessary thing. Okay, so. But I mean, on the face of it, it doesn't have to necessarily be racist. I think it would end up becoming racist, though.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, I'm not suggesting that Trump is going to do everything in a racist way, but it's like you say, it's once you give governmental authorities the power to start doing that sort of thing, that the creep goes in that direction, and I don't think that works out well for anyone in the long run.
Right, okay. So the next thing, God, he's got a lot planned, I tell you. I didn't realize he had this much planned. So the next thing is Middle Class Tax Relief and Simplification Act, an economic plan designed to grow the economy around 4% a year and create at least 25 million new jobs through massive tax reduction and simplification in combination with trade reform, regulatory relief, and lifting restrictions on American energy. The largest tax reductions are for the middle class. A middle class family with 2 children will get a 35% tax cut. That's fucking enormous.
Well, that's insane. And he's full of shit, because his biggest tax cuts are actually for the mega rich. It's a continuation or a moving back to what George W. Bush was doing.
Well, that's actually his next one, so we'll get to that in a minute. I'm not even finished reading this out. The current number of brackets will be reduced from 7 to 3, and tax reforms will likewise be greatly simplified. The business rate will be lowered from 35 to 15%, and the trillions of dollars American corporate money overseas can now be brought back at a 10% rate. This, and I don't know how much money is overseas, and I doubt they know either. But and the next one is
just reducing that to 10%. They're still not going to bring it back at a 10%, because they're paying nothing in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, but if he's going to make it impossible for them to store their money in the Cayman Islands,
I'd be very surprised if he were capable.
I just think he's capable of doing this. I don't think he's going to get a 35% tax cut to middle class people. I don't.
No, I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how that's possible whilst maintaining the military at that size.
I mean,
and reducing the budget deficit. I don't
exactly.
think that those three things are impossible together.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, he's expecting a huge amount of money to come back and a massive amount of money to come out of energy. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to be, but I would be impressed if he can. But I mean, it's at least a nice thought. It's that something to try to do. This good thing, right?
Well, I don't know that it necessarily is a good thing. I mean, I like the idea of a middle class tax cut. And when they say middle class in America, they mean everyone who isn't mega rich, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that, but it's the massive tax cut for the massively rich that it just doesn't work. George Bush showed that. It doesn't fucking work.
Using these corporate loopholes, they're going to be. They think they're going to be paying more money in total.
Absolute pie in the sky.
Yeah, probably. But at least it's pie in the sky in the right direction.
Well, okay. Well, like I say, a lot of this is conjecture on the basis that he hasn't even started. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
we should. I mean, I know it's a long way away, but we should plan to do a going through this list in 12 months.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, so the second one is end the Offshoring Act. Establishes tariffs to discourage companies from laying off their workers in order to relocate to other companies and ship their products back to the US tax-free. What do you think?
Yeah, good.
Okay. American Energy and Infrastructure Act leverages public-private partnerships and private investments through tax incentives to spur $1 trillion in infrastructure investment over 10 years. It is revenue neutral.
I have a problem with the public-private investment partnership type thing because I think we've seen in Britain how that isn't necessarily always enormously productive or
It
efficient.
does lend itself towards cronyism, doesn't it?
Yeah, and not just that, but private industry doesn't care for the quality of the product it produces for the state
That's
because
true.
the state just gives it the money regardless. It's not like a proper market in that sense.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, like for instance, the school in was it Glasgow, I think, or
Mm.
Edinburgh, that was built on one of these PPI fucking things, and it basically crumbled. And so the state has had to put in more money to repair the building than it would have been to just pay for the fucking thing in the first place.
Mm.
So it's cost us more money, and they've creamed off the profits, and it's fucked up the education of hundreds of children. Brilliant.
I'm not necessarily. I wouldn't say I'm knowledgeable enough on the subject to comment, but as a gut feeling, I don't like it that much. But I don't think it's necessarily, again, born of malice or anything like that. So number 4 is School Choice and Education Opportunity Act. Redirects education dollars to give parents the right to send their kid to the public, private, charter, magnet, or religious or home school of their choice. Ends Common Core, brings education supervision to local communities, expands vocational and technical education, and makes 2 to 4 year college more affordable.
Well, like a lot of things, it's the ability to be able to choose that's the thing. If you live in an area where you've got 5 shit schools, it sort of doesn't matter which school you choose to send your kid to. So I don't see how that's actually going to improve for the worst off.
Well, I think core is quite a big deal.
I've heard a lot about that, but I can't say I really know a lot about it.
I've read a few of the papers and stuff that kids have to do, man. I think Common Core's a bad idea.
Okay. Well, like I say, I can't. With lack of information, I can't really expand upon that.
I'm really not a fan of the thing. So number 5 is repeal and replace Obamacare Act. Fully repeals Obamacare and replaces it with the health savings accounts, the ability to purchase health insurance across state lines, and let states manage Medicaid funds. Cutting the red tape at the FDA. There are over 4,000 drugs waiting approval, especially if you want to speed the approval of life-saving medications. Fucking hell, I don't know, man.
Well, for all of the problems with Obamacare, and clearly it's not a perfect thing, it's certainly taken tens of millions from being entirely uninsured to having some insurance. And I don't know that his plan has any way of ensuring that that isn't going to get reversed.
I don't know about his healthcare plan, so I'm just going to skip over it.
Yeah, like I say, without having seen his actual legislation, it's difficult to really judge, but I'm wary, very wary.
But my problem is I don't really know enough about Obamacare to know what needs to be done. So I don't even know if he's saying the right things and going in the right direction. You know, whether he
Yeah, no, I don't particularly. But all I know is I've seen the statistics, and there are far fewer uninsured Americans than there were. So that's a positive that I don't want to see reversed.
Yeah, like you say, we don't know what Trump's thing would actually do. So, so number 6 is the Affordable Child Care and Elder Care Act. Allows Americans to deduct childcare and elder care from their taxes, That would be fucking great. Incentivize employers to provide on-site childcare services, and creates tax-free dependent care savings accounts for both young and elderly dependents, with matching contributions for low-income families.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Bernie Sanders would come up with.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think that is a genuinely progressive idea.
Jesus, the right wingers must be fuming.
Well, this is the one thing you have to give to Trump is he's not a traditional conservative in every area.
In many areas. I mean?
Well, no, I think he's played into the the whole ripping the baby out of the womb at 9 bollocks. He certainly played to that, and of course he's got a creationist vice president. Brilliant.
Yeah. But to be fair, he was probably a bit strapped for choices when he was campaigning.
Probably, but it just makes you think. He's 70, and it's possible he could die, but that's not actually going to improve the situation because we're going to get Pence. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
I can't even pray for the fucker to die. Jesus Christ.
So, right, number 7 is End Illegal Immigration Act fully. Funds the construction of a wall on our southern border with the full understanding that the country Mexico will be reimbursing the United States for the full cost of such a wall. Mandatory minimum federal prison sentence for illegally re-entering the U.S. after a previous deportation, and a 5-year mandatory minimum for illegally re-entering for those with felony convictions, multiple misdemeanor convictions, or 2 or more prior deportations, and reforms of visa rules to enhance penalties for overstaying and to ensure open jobs are offered to American workers first.
Right. Obviously, the serious point first. It's unworkable. It's far too expensive. It isn't going to make an impact on the actual situation. But what I love is the fact that he didn't fucking write that. There's no way he worded that way. That someone with actual grasp of the English language did that for him. But I love the fact that it's the whole. He's made a rod for his own back with the Mexico are going to pay for it. No, they're not. Of course they fucking are. You twat. But he's had to stick by it because of his belligerent fucking narcissism. A stump speech thing that he didn't think would catch on. Mexico were going to pay for it, and now it's become like an absolute key part of his presidency.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think he's going to get the wall built. I would be surprised if he gets the wall built. And I agree. There's no fucking way the Mexicans are paying for it.
Yeah. As Real Fox said, we're not paying for that fucking wall. Yeah, of course you're not. Obviously you're not. He'll come up with some nonsense about, we're going to do something on a reimbursement scale based upon renegotiation of NAFTA, which basically means they're going to pay for it, but it's going to look like Mexico have paid for it, or some bollocks like that, because he has to save face now. Rather than just go, I made a promise, I can't really keep that. I didn't mean that. That was hubris. That's what I mean. It's hubris. It's nonsense.
It's silly. And like I said from the beginning, though, it's symbolic. It's a meme, We're going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. That's fucking hilarious.
Well, it would be if he wasn't... well, God, he's going to be president. Fucking hell.
It would be if he wasn't president, yeah. No, it's not going to happen. I don't think he can afford it. I don't see how he's going to afford half of this shit, but okay.
Well, that's the thing. If you're going to give rich people a 20% tax cut and poor to average people a 35% tax cut without reducing the military at all, you're going to go bankrupt in a fortnight. What the fuck?
Yeah. Okay, so number 8 is Restoring Community Safety Act. Reduces surging crime, drugs, and violence by creating a task force on violent crime, thought they were called the police, and increasing funding for programs that train and assist local police. Increases resources for federal law enforcement agencies and federal prosecutors to dismantle criminal gangs and put violent offenders behind bars.
Yeah, like you say, I thought the Violent Crime Task Force were called the police, although that was a thing that already existed, but whatever. I mean, again, there's a lot in that you think, well, okay, that sounds nice, but that's not really a plan. That just seems like some vaguely worded
it's bizarrely like politician speak, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just pleasantries. It's just
it's kind of empty and vague. To be fair, programs that train and assist local police, that's probably really vital. I mean, this sounds empty, but that would be... So apparently they only get like 6 months worth of training.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's they should have at least like 2 years. So that, and honestly, I imagine that many of the circumstances that we see that blow out of proportion and go viral and whatnot, they probably would be, stopped by proper training. But it wouldn't occur if the police were well trained. So it could be that this is actually a really good idea.
It could be, but it's so vague, it's impossible to know.
And I agree with dismantling criminal gangs. Man, it's got to happen. It's fucking got.
No, absolutely. I don't know how you go about doing it.
No, I don't.
But
and I don't know how you go about doing it without being called a racist.
Well, not just that, but it's without being authoritarian. I don't see how you could possibly
honestly,
bridge that gap, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure there's a liberal way of doing that.
Well, no, it's not even a matter of being a liberal way of doing it. It would be really easy to, well, not really easy, but it would be an obvious way to just go full military police, fucking go in there, arrest every one of the continent and put them all in jail or something.
Yeah.
But that's not really a solution to the problem. You know what I mean? That's just a temporary sort of whatnot. I don't know how you go about on a day-to-day basis policing that situation.
Well, I imagine probably go after the big names in these communities and make examples of them, and as a chilling effect to other people around.
Hopefully so, yeah. But ultimately, without wanting to sound too much like a fucking hippie, it starts with education, doesn't it? You need to actually raise a generation of kids that A, have bought into the system, but B, actually have a stake in the system as well. That they know there are decent jobs out there and they're going to be treated fairly.
People you're dealing with, and let's be honest, a lot of these people respect strength.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. But like I say, in order for them to go from that situation to a more peaceful transition, like the next generation and after, because this isn't going to be a problem that's going to be solved even within the term.
No.
Even if he's 100% successful with everything he's trying to do in terms of legislation and stuff, it's not going to be solved in even if Trump serves 8 fucking years. It's going to be 20, 30, 40 years before you really completely eradicate a problem of that nature.
Yeah, but he might Pompeii this, man. He might smash them like Pompey with the pirates, man. He might seriously. I mean, you could go in hard and get the ringleaders and really crucify them. Basically, obviously not literally, and that could have a significant effect.
I think. I genuinely don't want to seem like I'm patronising here, but I would ask that you look into the sociology of criminal societies, because it's absolutely fascinating. That basically these fake societies arise in like they call it the ghetto or whatever, like in areas like that, in the projects, because these people are so alienated from the societies in which they live because they don't have a stake in it. They create their own system. They create their own pyramid of power. And so you work your way up because the actual system that already existed has totally left you aside.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I as I said, I have actually read into this.
Okay.
And this is why I was saying that you've got to speak to their mindset, because like you're saying that you don't want to sound too hippie, and it's like, well, you have to have the rod and the carrot. That's the problem. You can't just have all carrot, because I don't think these people generally respect all carrot. I think they think that's weak, and I think
true, but you can't have all rod either.
No, I agree. I agree that it needs to be a combination of both.
Yeah.
You do need to have the rod, and it will have to be used against the most powerful, I think. And,
absolutely. Look, if people are engaged in criminality, I'm not one of these people that tries to fucking always sympathise with criminals, whatever. I understand there are reasons that criminals arise and all the rest of it, and a lot of it's to do with like mental health or drugs or whatever. Okay, but ultimately, if people are committing crimes, they need to be punished for those crimes, because that's how you keep order in a society. If people can get away with shit, they'll do shit.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I was saying about Rotherham. It's like, well, it's they're like, oh, it's a pack. It's like, well, to be fair, we're letting them do it. So we don't know whether it's anything to do with that. We could just be that it's the bad people taking advantage of the situation they've found themselves in, which I think bad people will do all over the world. So,
although I was glad to see that there have been some prosecutions on that now.
Man, Jesus. They actually every couple of weeks there's a new one. For the past few months, it's actually been really heartening to see. It's a really good thing to see.
Well, finally, it looks like we're starting to get a grip on that problem. A problem that, I don't even think people of past generations realised it really was there. But it seems that Britain was very, very accepting of paedophilia for generations.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's appalling. It's fucking appalling. Because I've known lots of old people, and they're disgusted by it. So it must be that they just didn't know it was around.
Yeah.
It clearly was in pretty fucking systemic ways.
Oh man, the
You
fucking
look at the Catholic Church, the BBC, the fucking paedophile ring in Westminster.
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But the thing is, right? Did you see the conspiracy theory about John Podesta and the pizza thing?
No, go on.
Oh my god! Right. So the WikiLeaks releases, John Podesta seems kind of obsessed with pizza.
Right.
They talk about pizza a lot.
Okay.
Like in weird ways as well. And I like a good conspiracy theory, but I like them because I don't believe them. Right. And so for me, it's kind of like science fiction, I go, ooh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? What's behind the next corner sort of thing. And I think that's probably why most people get into them. But then, I then go, okay, that's probably not true. And so this thing was basically they would talk about things in a weird way. Like, do you want to go and have pizza for an hour? Or no, it wasn't phrased like that. It was phrased in a really specific way, but it made it sound like they were renting pizza. And it was just like, okay, that's weird. But I mean, that in itself is obviously nothing. And then but there were lots of these emails. And then it started going around. Now, I don't know where this came from, and I have no idea of the veracity of it. But apparently, it's well known in the sort of, the professions that go hunting for paedophile rings and stuff like this, that they have a special code that they use to talk to each other. And apparently, pizza, hot dog, walnut, all this sort of stuff are apparently, and I have no confirmation of this, they're code words for like little boy, little girl, black person, whatever, right? And so, if you were to string a sentence together in this kind of cipher, then you saying I'd like a pizza party with walnut sauce or something becomes I want a underage black teen orgy or something. And I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure that's complete bollocks. But on the other side of the coin, given the number of paedophile rings that have occurred in this country, I wouldn't be all that surprised if there was something going on.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's made me question a lot of the way in which the secrecy of power is done, because it clearly allows for these things to take place. And like, yeah, I mean, that's the first I've heard of it. But yeah, it's made me think, have I sent any emails with pizza in there? And I'm thinking, is anyone going to be able to turn that around and say, look, Logan wants fucking pedo gay sex or whatever? Fucking hell. I didn't realise there was a thing about that. I'm glad I don't like walnuts. That's all I'm saying.
Honestly, it's well worth looking into, because it's just, even if it's just for entertainment's sake, because we obviously can't prove this, and I doubt we're ever going to have any kind of proof of this. But it's very interesting to read the emails, because it's just like, wow, that is a weird thing to say. And there was this one email where they'd replied to some dude, I can't remember if it was Podesta himself or someone else, saying that 3 children, and they list the children, they list the ages of the children, and then they say they're going to be in the swimming pool for your entertainment.
Oh, wow. Well, that's not even fucking,
it's
that's
weird.
Not code anymore. That just seems really pedo.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, like I said, I didn't want to jump it because I'm not like, I don't know anything, but it sounds really sus, right?
Yeah, that's deeply uncomfortable, yes.
Isn't it? And I normally I would think nothing of it, because you think, well, okay, it's a badly phrased thing, or it's weird, or I need more context. I need to know more before I can make a judgment. But in the context of, well, we know that paedophile rings often operate in positions of power.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know or anything like that, but I'm certainly not discounting it.
I'm genuinely wondering, like you say, it does seem to be positions of power protect pedophiles in a number of ways. Whether it's something about power that turns people, or not necessarily even turns them into pedophiles, because that's like a natural lust or whatever, Whether it's pedophiles who get into that situation, realise they can get away with it, and so they start doing it. Or whether it's something about the lust for power being connected in some psychological way with being able to have these incredibly taboo lusts or whatever. Yeah, look, there must be some sort of connection there. It seems too many of these powerful groups have pedophiles within them. It seems like it's not a coincidence. It's not one or two bad eggs. It seems like
you know what my theory is?
Go on.
My theory, well, I mean, the psychology of it, like you're saying, I think that there's undoubtedly a type of person who gets sexual pleasure from being powerful over others.
Yeah.
I definitely think that these people would probably be more inclined to become pedophiles. But I think the reason that it occurs in government positions of power, because it creates a way of controlling people. If you can get like some evidence of some dude being a pedophile, then you know they're always going to be your bitch. And so I would not be surprised if these pedophile rings were specifically a way of almost like entrapment, where they go to parties or something, and it's understood that this is something that you're going to know they're going to have proof of in some way, and so you do this terrible thing, and then it's kind of like building I hate to say building a community, but it's a way of making sure that they do as they're told and they stay on side. It's a way of making sure that you can rely on them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't know.
Theory.
Yeah.
But right, so number 9 is Restoring National Security Act rebuilds our military by eliminating the defense sequester and expanding military investment.
I don't think I've ever seen a quicker pivot from pedo discussion to national defense ever.
Yeah. There's no question here, as far as I'm aware. Provides veterans with the ability to receive public VA treatment or attend private doctors of their choice, protects our vital infrastructure from cyber attack, establishes new screening procedures for immigration to ensure those who are admitted to our country support our people and our values.
Yeah, again, it's platitudes.
Yeah,
I don't see any actual concrete plan there.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know about rebuilding the military. Like, the American military is huge and powerful.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, number 10, Clean Up Corruption in Washington Act. Enacts new ethics reforms to drain the swamp and reduce the corrupting influence of special interests in our politics.
Again, it sounds wonderful, but what does that actually mean? What is his plan there?
He seems to have covered that in the first 4 points.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, legislation. How are you going to enforce? Look, draining the swamp is a good analogy to what you want to do, but what does that actually entail? What concrete steps are you going to take? And again, I'm not necessarily asking him to come up with that, but at some point he's actually going to have to come up with that, and then we can judge it. Yeah,
but I mean, honestly, I think term limits on Congress members, freezing on the 5-year ban on congressional officials becoming lobbyists, and the ban on foreign lobbyists. I mean, that's all got to be a good step in the right direction for that.
Yeah, like I say, I think there's a caveat I would add on the basis of continuity of legislative knowledge and experience. But outside of that, I think those things probably are incredibly positive. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this overall, this Donald Trump's plans, aside from the fact that I think that a lot of them aren't feasible, I don't think many of them are actually bad. I think
I think the tax plans are potentially incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I'd say close.
I don't think they're even plausible. But that's the thing. Hoping that they won't get through is not good enough for me. I don't want a man in charge that's going to even try to do that. That seems like a really dangerous thing to try and do, because it's going to have, whether we like it or not, and whether there might be some initial intransigence from Congress that don't like him, especially because Paul Ryan's still there, of course, although how long that lasts, who knows. He's going to have control of both houses. So he's going to, in some senses, in some parts of some bits of legislation, he's going to have almost dictatorial power.
Hang on a sec, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of missed what you were saying there. What were you objecting to? I missed that.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I don't want him in charge. Just hoping that his plans aren't feasible or aren't going to get through. isn't enough for me. I don't want a man in power who's going to actually even try and do those things, because he's going to have control of both houses, and in some senses he's going to have almost dictatorial power in a number of ways.
Well, I think that's a bit hyperbolic, but I mean, if he's trying to do these things, most of them are pretty good things.
Well, like I say, I think that the tax plan is difficult to get around, because some of the good things he's planned to do are on the basis that you have the money to do it. And if you're going to cripple the economy by having the same trickle-down bullshit that didn't work under George Bush and destroyed the fucking, not just the US economy, but the world economy.
Is that necessarily what he's suggesting? I mean, I think the first thing he should do, I really do think before he does anything, would be to get rid of these tax loopholes. Just figure out how much money you're going to get, Donald.
Okay, but that takes legislation to do that.
Yeah.
So that's going to take at least a couple of years.
Probably, but that
so that he can't do that first up.
Yeah, but if
you have to actually do some other things first up.
House and Senate, so just get on it, make it happen. Let's see what happens.
Well, wait and see. But like I say, if he appoints a former Goldman Sachs guy as his fucking secretary, treasury secretary, which led, to be fair, right, there are a number of names floating around. He's not appointed anyone because he's not even fucking president yet. But that was leaked, or that was briefed to press people. If that happens, I can't imagine that tax loopholes and clamping down on Wall Street are going to be high on that man's agenda.
That's true, but maybe we're reading too much into that,
Possibly, and like I say, I think it would be much more interesting. Well, not that this hasn't been interesting. I think it has, but I think in 12 months to go through that list again and see what progress has been made, what bits have been shelved. Because that's the thing. Thankfully, he isn't a dictator, and so bits of his policies will be shelved, because that happens. A lot of people say, this isn't even a defense of Trump. This is a defense of all politicians. They say, they don't do what they said they were going to do in their manifestos. Well, that's because they can't always. A lot of it is about compromise and about picking and choosing battles you can and can't win. So you're not going to be able to impose everything, and rightly so. I wouldn't want anyone, even if it was the perfect candidate that I loved, which he most assuredly is not. I still wouldn't want them to have the power to do whatever the fuck they wanted. That's not good for democracy.
No, absolutely not. That's exactly. That would be terrible. But yeah, I think there are definitely things in this that Trump can do, and I would definitely like to see happen. I mean, I think the sorting out the Congress and the term limits and whatnot, I think that's fantastic.
True, but again, you're going to have to get that past Congress.
Well, yeah, but
turkeys don't tend to vote for Thanksgiving.
That's true. I'm not suggesting he's going to get all of this done or anything, but they're going to be really fucking unpopular if they don't agree to it.
True, but they're at 12% approval ratings, and they don't seem to give two fucks. So I mean, do they care? Without term limits, because that's the thing. The really important factor to realise with Congress and indeed the Senate is that the approval ratings as a whole for those bodies are really low. But if you ask individuals about their own congressmen or women, their approval ratings are actually very high.
Yeah, people are stupid, aren't they?
Yeah. Fundamentally, that's the problem with democracy, is that people are idiots.
Yeah. It's literally, if you keep voting for people who don't get anything done, then nothing gets done. So you're
yeah, basically, yes.
Well, what are you supposed to do? But right, okay, so yeah, overall, I mean, it's not a bad plan. It's wildly optimistic, but I really don't think it's a bad set of plans. I mean, I think a lot of this Bernie would have come out with.
I think some of it Bernie would have come out with. But like I say, there's a fatal flaw at the heart of it, is that the tax plans, I can't get around that, because
I can't imagine
it just makes the rest of his plans utterly worthless, because if he gets the tax plans through, which I doubt he would, but if he did, it would cripple the economy overnight. I mean, look, it's already in a fucking bad state, and he's not even taken over yet.
The question really is, how much is he going to get from closing the loopholes? That's
true. Like I say, that can't be done for a couple of years anyway, because that's going to take legislation.
But I mean, obviously, I mean, if they say, their estimate is trillions. I mean, it might be.
It might be. But
imagine if it was. I mean.
Well, if it was, I mean, that's the thing with the Panama Papers. For those, I presume that was a story in America as well, wasn't it? why anyone in the media was acting shocked at that, I
Yeah,
don't know.
because
Everyone and their dog knows that the rich have been hiding trillions away for years. Of course they have.
it's not a secret or anything like that. It's what's,
Yeah.
Jimmy Carr does it, and he's a fucking comedian.
Yeah, exactly. Well, famously, our Prime Minister, the former shiny-faced pig fucker.
I'd expect a politician to do it.
Mm.
I wouldn't really expect a comedian to do it, but there we go. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I guess we'd better end it there since it's 2:30 in the morning and it's getting on a bit, and we've finished talking about that, I guess.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean that's not like. I mean, I don't think any death camps are coming, and I think that generally the people who were voting Hillary can calm down, don't you?
I think everyone needs to calm down because I don't think, and I get why people are angry. I'm not massively fucking pleased. I'm pretty raw at the moment, but I don't think being angry in of itself is entirely productive. And what I would suggest to people is don't get mad, get even. You weren't knocking on doors before the election, so for you to now get angry at the result of the election you didn't really take part in seems like you should take a lesson from that and get involved for the next one. Don't turn that anger into something negative. Turn it into something positive.
That's damn fine advice, and we'll end on that. Thanks for watching, everyone.